All right. So we were talking earlier that these tests, or not tests, these quizzes that we're doing are really helping people. And it's giving us a good idea of what you guys don't know or do know.
So,
To the point that, like, there's one question on here that so far everybody's missed. And it's like, okay, so now it's a gold nugget because now you know it.
now you know.
And we
Is
teach it.
Is it all the same questions?
Everybody's answering the same question, so he's made up 2 different quizzes. We're just going to give you the second one that we're giving everybody else, and we're going to have everybody in the office do it.
Okay.
Because theoretically, everybody should know this stuff. And if you don't, then we know that we haven't taught it properly, is what it's coming down to.
Okay.
So these aren't hard, so don't freak out. Some of this, because it's ACT, it's not going to pertain to you, so like we're not going to have you pitch us an RVP and pitch us that kind of stuff. We're not going to do that. We might ask you what it is, that kind of thing, but we're not going to have you do that kind of stuff. So, because this is slanted more towards ACT than it is Dispo, but a lot of these are Dispo questions.
Okay.
So,
Alright, number 1. What contract do you use to dispo a wholesale deal?
Dispo wholesale. So contract review.
Number 2. How much more do we tack onto our private money for closing costs on a takedown property?
20%.
Okay. Number 3. What are 3 example types of plumbing?
Of plumbing.
3 types of plumbing.
What do you like? Types of plumbing.
Yeah.
what
Like
carries
the
what carries the
material.
water in your house?
What kind of material is
The
it?
water spigot.
The pipes.
The
yeah.
pipes
Pipes
itself.
underneath it.
Yeah, what are the pipes made of?
Like at least.
PVC, multiple.
Yeah. So what are 3 types? Okay. Number 4. What profit percentage does the flipper want to net themselves on a flip?
20%.
When does the closing countdown timeline begin on an RBP?
Once recorded. Are the deeds recorded?
On an RBP? When does the
After we
closing?
lock up the contract. It's like a month after, right?
Okay. Number 6. What are 2 reasons somebody might sell their home on a wrap?
It's gonna go into foreclosure. They can't make their payments. They're behind on their taxes. They need quick money now, so they can move on to their next. Maybe build up credit.
What's the 1% rent rule?
You want your total. You want your monthly payments to be 1% of the total sales price. 1% of the total. That's what that 1% is what you want to get your monthly payment from.
What monthly payment?
That you get tenants in that income for that month. You want, say it's $100,000. You want $1,000 a month coming in.
Okay. On the rental.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 8. How many hours notice do we have to give for access? How many hours notice do we have to give for access to a property that we're under contract on?
48 hour. 24.
Okay. Who pays for transfer tax in our purchase contracts?
We pay for it.
What does title insurance do?
Make sure there's any collateral and title to mitigate that. Yeah.
Okay. Difference between a subject to deal versus a wrap.
Is it not a sub 2 wrap?
The difference between, I guess, a true.
Just keep going.
Yeah,
We haven't even taught him that.
Yeah. 12. What kind of creative offer would we make on a free and clear house?
Creative offer. If it's free and clear, there's no debts on it. Why don't we just lock it up and flip it and sell it at a higher price?
Yeah, what kind of creative offer would we make on it?
We want to take it down.
We want to take it down.
Yeah.
Why don't you just offer? Just offer. I guess I'm confused. You
It's
offer
okay.
the price and then you list it at higher.
We'll come back.
Yeah.
Keep going.
What are 2 reasons that we do lease options over rentals? What are 2 benefits to us as investors?
We can make sure that they are good buyers and they'll actually pay their monthly payment. We give them the option to buy at the end so that we kind of know what we're going to expect, that we can get paid for it at the end on the back end. Also, I believe it helps credit.
With what kind of offer can we usually pay full price for a home? No, let's say it's a nice house. Assuming it's a pretty house, we wanna take it down.
We know we're gonna have tenants in, and we could have that rental
Yeah.
income.
So what kind of offer can we make on it? So if this guy's like, hey, I want 300,000 for my home, the home's worth 300, how can we pay him 300?
We can pay them full price, or we can just do 20 down, and then have tenants, and then they can come in and pay the rest. They can come in and just pay the monthly income, and then we get the passive.
Okay. What are 3 examples of a fixed property that convey with a home sale?
3 examples.
Of a fixed
A personal property.
Guess I don't understand the question. My bad.
So, you know what a fixed personal property is? No?
It's just at a fixed price.
No, like affixed.
Affixed.
Oh, a fixed.
No.
A fixed.
No, okay, no worries.
Never heard of that. That's not gonna know that.
What happens in case title is not clear on day of closing per our contracts?
Well, we can nullify it. But then there's probably I don't know, but there's probably a fee to the other side.
Okay. What do we use an affidavit of equitable interest for?
To know how much equity we have in the home.
Okay.
Or it depends on how much equity there is in the home.
Okay. And what's the benefit of using a servicing company in creative deals?
We're not on the line for the payments. They have to do the payments.
Okay.
So they'll be servicing the receivable.
Okay.
So that's something that in the back end, like, okay, we know that that's taken care of.
Alright, let's run down through these. Okay? This is good, don't worry about it, because this is stuff that we haven't even talked to you about,
But still, it's like, fuck, I just feel so unprepared. Oh, I don't know.
but this is why you're here, right?
Yeah.
A couple of these are definitely gonna come back to you. I know that just because you've
Yeah.
gotten licensed, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of this is your license.
Yeah.
I know, I'm like,
Exactly.
I know this
It's
question.
gonna-
Okay.
All terms I've heard.
So going through what contract you use to dispo wholesale deal? An
I'm
assignment,
doing these.
assignment
I don't
contract.
Contract.
An assignment contract.
Yeah, just a regular I don't know, like, that's not me, but
It's an assignment
So it's a
contract.
wholesale deal, so you're gonna
it's
use
just
this
what I'm already doing.
assignment.
Like,
You're already doing
I
it.
know the term, like, I know what to do, but like.
Yeah, it's an
Well,
assignment
assignment.
contract.
Okay.
Because you have, so basically we have multiple contracts, but you have a creative contract, that's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is going to be wholesale contract, so that's AC. Then when it comes to you, it's going to be, it's usually an assignment if it's on wholesale deal. If we are taking it creatively, we might just take the deed, or we might buy it with a contract for deed.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Okay. The next one,
Do you know what a contract for deed is?
Yeah. Here's the contract, and you're buying the deed. Like, essentially, you get the deed in return.
So you get the deed once you pay the other person off in full.
Yeah.
do you know the other 2 names for a contract for deed?
Contract for sale.
So a contract for deed is just exactly what it says. I am making a contract with you. I do not get the deed until I pay you off in full.
Yes.
That deed will be held in a servicing company, signed by the seller, so that if that seller passes away or disappears off the face of the earth,
It's still going.
it's still going on. The title company or the servicing company has permission from the seller that once that's paid off, they automatically record it. So I have one right here. That's what we're doing.
Gotcha.
Okay. Or you take the deed and the deed's already in my name and I have the deed in my file
That's just yours.
and it's mine. I don't have to do it when it's paid off. So the other names for a contract for deed, it just depends on what state you're in. Is an agreement for sale or a land contract. They're all the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
It just depends on what state you're in. Okay. The next one was how much extra do we add for closing costs?
3%.
Nope. On when we are closing the deal. So if you remember the calculator that I showed you the other day,
3.
when you get to closing costs in there, we had $5,000. Closing costs plus commissions to you guys.
Gotcha.
Okay, because it's not going to cost $5,000 to close something. Usually it's anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 for the price point we're in. So it usually leaves in there $2,500 or more for me to pay out commissions.
Gotcha.
Okay, I do that so that the tenant, or I'm sorry, my private money, I have borrowed that money, but it's non-taxable. Instead of taking profit out of the company, who's paying that $5,000 back? My lease option tenants are.
Gotcha.
So it still cash flows, So if there's no profit out of the company to pay you guys,
Gotcha.
okay?
But it's $5.
It's $5,000. We always use $5,000. You got the deal for plumbing, basically. Oh, for plumbing, no, you did not. For plumbing, you got. So, and the reason why we look at this, especially from a wholesale situation, if it's copper, it's probably okay. PEX is the newest stuff, but if you have galvanized, that's old shit, and you're gonna have to replumb the house, and it could be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to replumb a house.
What year for a home is that typically?
They're getting back in the early 1900s.
Oh shit.
Okay, which we own 1900 homes, but when you may have to replumb it because what happens with galvanized, it gets so much corrosion in there that they actually seal shut. Okay, or they'll break. So you need to know that if you're going to be wholesaling houses, flipping houses, stuff like that, because you may have to put that into the bid of the flipper to replumb it.
Galvanized PEX and copper.
Copper.
Iron, there's a few other ones.
There are PVC sometimes, but mostly those are the three big ones.
Gotcha.
Okay, but you do need to know that.
Number 4 you got correct. Profit percentage, if flipper want to make 20%. Yep, that's correct. When does the closing countdown timeline start on an RBP? It actually starts the moment we get listed.
As soon as it's listed on the property.
Yeah, as soon as it's listed. So that's why it's like our sellers want to make sure, hey, the sooner we can get access and get pictures
not when
taken
we
and all
lock it
that. It's not when we lock it up. It's and on any other
It's
deal.
different than your real estate contracts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's written right in our contract. So we probably have you actually went through
I
our
was gonna say,
contract?
Can I read it? I have never read the
Oh,
contract.
100%.
Okay,
yeah.
would you
Would like to look
print
it up.
him out a wholesale contract and a creative contract?
Yeah, 100%.
So you have it,
Extremely
Yeah.
helpful.
and then you can go through it. So we had training. I have a whole video on both of those that's in my course that you can get a hold of. That we break it down in a morning meeting.
Oh, sweet.
And we went through and read every fucking line, and we broke it down to what it actually means.
That would be nice.
But instead of going through that, because it was an hour and a half,
I can go through it with you in like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
honestly.
that's what I was gonna say. Read it, X the areas you're not sure about, and
Yeah.
ask us, and
For
we'll
sure.
just tell you.
Gotcha.
Since you've already been through contract law
Yeah.
and stuff with everything.
Kirsten just text. Disturbing.
What?
What?
Kirsten is so funny
She's
sometimes.
She's something.
Okay.
Alright, what are 2 reasons someone would sell their home on a wrap? Sound like you got that one to me. You said little equity, you wanna sell fast.
Foreclosures.
Foreclosure, yeah, you got that. 1% rent rule, essentially that you want the house to be able to rent out for 1% of the purchase price, so, yeah. Simple, how many hours notice do we have to give for access to a property we're under contract on? You'll see that when you go through and read our contract, but it's minimum 12 hours per paper.
12 hours.
In our contract.
In our contract, yeah.
What's like a rule of thumb typically?
12 hours, sometimes when we've done like less notice, it kind of depends on who you're working with, and every seller's gonna be different, like Finley's obviously a bit more
Yeah.
difficult than some of the other ones, but we've got access within 12 hours per our paperwork.
And if they don't do it, we can cure them.
Yeah. It's
You know what
not
cure it?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we can cure
Have
it.
you done that?
all
Oh,
the time,
Really?
yeah.
all the time.
Yep, because they're
How much
breaching.
does that cost? Does that cost?
A cure?
To cure?
Yeah.
No, it's just us sending a notice, but we do certified mail it typically, so that it's cost of certified mail. And then they got 3 days to cure. If they don't, they're in breach
Trying
contract.
to breach.
And if we have all that paperwork, then if we have an affidavit of interest on it
Give it
or a
turn.
memo on it, then at that point, we prove that you breach contract.
Then what's the typical feedback to you guys? Well, depending on the attorney, but
Depends on the deal, honestly.
Yeah, don't worry about the
sometimes
attorney.
it's been a couple grand, sometimes it's been, 20, 30.
20, 30 grand.
Exactly, so.
Depending on what we're gonna make on the deal,
damn.
is what we charge them.
So yeah, it just depends. Go over. So what was next? Who pays for
Transfer
transfer tax in our purchase contracts? The seller.
So it's
The seller pays. Do you know what transfer tax is?
just transferring the property over.
So there's some states like Washington and Pennsylvania, they have an extra tax.
And I found out DC has a 2.9% on this
2.9?
transaction.
Oh,
Yeah, it
fuck.
used to be like 4.9. They just tacked it. They knocked it down.
So you have to pay the government to buy a piece of property on top of property tax. So it's a transfer tax. A lot of times it's a buyer expense, but but because we're buyers, we didn't want that expense, and we got caught in that, and so we put it in our contract, seller has to pay that. So in our contract, this you wouldn't know without knowing the contract.
Gotcha. Is it kind of the same thing as the HOA transfer?
Kinda.
Similar, but it's just
Similar.
like a government
It's
tax,
just
yeah.
government tax.
Like up in Washington, they're like, 2% of
Just
sales
'cause they
tax.
can.
2% of the purchase price.
So
Just
like,
'cause
it's
they
a
can.
fucking, up
Yeah.
there, they got $500,000 houses, so that's 10
Or
grand.
10 grand off the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
Or in
Somebody's gotta
addition to
pay.
closing costs.
Yeah.
That's just absurd.
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah. Right, so,
That's fucked
yeah,
up.
we got caught up with that, and then after that, we're like, alright, never again. What does title insurance do?
Collateral's on title, make sure it mitigates that. Kind of, they're your escrow too, like in a sense.
Yeah, so really what it does, it ensures that you're buying, a free and clear title, a warranty title from the moment that you're buying it. That's what they call it, a warranty deed, and there's not going to be any liens from prior to you owning it that are going to come back. If they're due, then they get paid out by the title insurance, and you're safe and secure.
Making sure they're the one on title.
Difference between a sub 2 deal and a wrap transaction. I know we haven't really gone over this. This is a bit more in depth, but basically the kind of like how the subject to thing really started, especially like the last 2-3 years. A lot of gurus out there started teaching it. They were doing it the wrong way. They were basically just promising sellers, hey, I'm going to make your payments, but then the seller didn't have any recourse, any way to get back the property if that payment was not made, right? So now this led to a lot of investors getting properties under contract under these false promises of, hey, I'm going to make your mortgage
Oh, that's
payments.
fucked.
And then they weren't making the mortgage payment because they didn't know what to do with it, or they couldn't rent it out, and they just didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
It's an investment.
Yeah, exactly. And now the seller's like, now their credit's getting ruined, they're getting foreclosed on, and they're getting screwed because so-and-so over here didn't have the right paperwork to protect both
And they
parties.
can't mitigate that.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So in a wrap transaction, what we do, and how John teaches it, is that we put in place, it's usually like a deed of trust and a promissory note that gets recorded, right? Everything mirrors your original terms. So, like in our paperwork, if we don't make a payment in 45 days, then at that point the seller, comes back.
That's what you're saying. Like your moral stance is that, hey, if it's 45 or 46 days, you take it.
Yeah, and I would just
Gotcha.
give the deed back. That's me. That's not in the paperwork. What the paperwork does allow them to do is they can come foreclose on me, just like a
Gotcha.
mortgage company
Take
can
action.
come foreclose, and they can foreclose on me for no non-payment.
Gotcha.
Right.
So they won't get the actual deed back in a sense.
I would give them back if
You
I
give
can't
them-
make the payment. That's my moral and ethics,
Then you get
but that's not in the paperwork. Okay,
Paperwork-wise, they have to take action.
they have to take action, but they have the right to take action immediately.
But you'd rather give it to them first.
Yeah, I don't want
Because
them. They don't
hey,
need to
I'm
spend
not gonna
$3,000
make
or
your
$5,000 to hire an attorney to sue me.
Exactly.
I mean, just take the
Just
deed back.
what we-
I fucked up.
Yeah.
Here, take it.
Gotcha. That makes that actually clears that up.
But that's the two differences. And so,
Maybe the promissory note and the deed.
promissory note and the deed, we're giving them a security instrument. So that's why it's called a wrap. And when I was taught this clear back in '93, you wrapped it. You didn't take it over sub 2. You do, but you give them. It's a true wrap. They're just using your mortgage as financing. It's still a seller finance, but they're not taking money. They're using their mortgage and wrapping their underlying mortgage. It's a wrap on a wrap on a wrap on a wrap. It's fuck this sub 2 stuff that
Gotcha.
Chase came up with.
Gotcha.
That's
So-
too wrap, but that's why we always, and when we're talking like a lot of buyers, like I know I've had that conversation tons of times. Ralph would read me that conversation. It's like so and so doesn't understand it, and then if you go back to that Philip guy, if you go back, feel free to just listen to some of the calls, and I was going over it with him there as well because
Gotcha.
he didn't understand it.
So essentially, it's the same thing. It's just the wrap has a deed and the
There's-
promissory note. It's more secure.
exactly.
It's a lot
So
more
you-
secure.
Do you kind of sell it as a sub 2 wrap, or you just say wrap?
I don't even say that when I'm working with it. Well, I do say wrap.
At this point, I just call them wraps.
Yeah, sub 2 you stay away from it
Gotcha.
because that's an industry term. Okay.
Kind
And
of a turn off.
what's funny is like we were I was with Steve Train, and we were talking when we went to lunch the other day, and what happens in real estate, just like any other thing, you know how bell-bottom pants were in on 1 year and 1 decade, and then 2 decades later
Nope.
they're back again. Same thing with real estate stuff. Wraps have been around for eons, and now all of a sudden they start calling these wraps sub 2s, but they're not given the security instruments.
That's crazy.
So it's a form of it, and they just keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. Installment contracts. Installment contracts are actually written in the IRS code. 532 or something, I can't remember. And everybody says, well, what's an installment contract? That's illegal. No, it's right in the fucking
It's in the
IRS
code.
code. And I don't know if you know, if you look at the old HUD sheets, sub 2s are in there.
Same thing.
Installment contracts. That's what it is.
That's funny because
An installment contract is a wrap.
I was just gonna say when I
Yeah, it's the
started
same
here,
monthly.
like nobody knew about sub 2s or any of that shit, and then like
We were doing them.
yeah, then in the middle of COVID, that's when it just
Yeah.
like, blew up out of nowhere.
We were already doing them.
So
Been doing a lot of them.
Yeah, and then we were like trying to explain it to other like wholesalers and shit. They're like, "Oh no, I've never heard of that. That's illegal." And I got like inundated. It's like, God damn it.
That's actually
So,
Alright, so after that, what kind of creative offer would we make on a free and clear house? That is based, so if it's free and clear, so types of creative offers, you've got basically like subject to if there's financing in place, you've got seller financing if it's free and clear, hybrid is basically a mix of the
Oh,
two.
that, yeah, okay.
So seller financing was the answer, it's free and clear, so you just go there and make them the bank.
Okay, I knew that.
What are two reasons that we do lease options over rentals? One benefit is that we get an option fee up front, so it's more money, you know, that's all non-refundable. Then we're not a landlord, so we don't have to pay maintenance, we don't have the vacancies every year. It's more profitable, less headaches essentially. With what kind of...
Do you have a percentage of how many people end up buying it at the end? Like, do you know?
industry standard is around 20 to 25%. I don't see that yet,
You think it's less?
which is fine because all I do is I turn around and re-rent it again. I raise
Raise
all the,
rents.
raise rents, raise the purchase price, raise the option fee, and re-rent it again.
So it's fine either way.
And the reason why I say there's no vacancy expense is because I'm already collecting 10 or 15,000 up front. Okay. Yes, I may have to clean it out. Yes, I may have to clean the house. Yes, I may have a month or 2 months where it sits empty. So maybe I have $3, $4, or $5,000 that I had to spend, but I got it, the 15,000 here. Now when I re-rent it, I get that 15,000 back again. I'm still ahead. So in what they say on rentals is that $3, $4, $5,000 that you had to spend, your deposit isn't going to cover that because you can only ask for 1.5 times the monthly deposit. So if it's $1,000 rent, you can only get $1,500. So now it's truly an expense that's gone, and you can't get it back. I say it's not an expense because I use my option fee to pay for it. I've already got money in my pocket. Yes, it is an expense, and then all of a sudden I get it back because I get another $15,000.
Is that 1.5% nationwide, or is that state to state? 'Cause I know it's the
It's
same
state to
thing
state.
here. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's state to state. We look at 1.5%. I just found out the other day we charge 10% on late fees. And Indiana, I think it is, and we just started a lawsuit. You can only charge 5. Oh no, North Carolina.
Oh.
You can only charge 5%. So we need to change our lease for North Carolina.
Oh, man.
Didn't know that. Bummer.
Oh, I know.
We've been charging her 10%, and she's been paying 10% plus $10 a day thereafter. That's our late fees.
But you guys will be fine now. I mean,
If we end up in court, the judge is just he'll either get really pissed off and say you can't charge that, or he'll say no, we can't charge that accordingly. Now, if she's got a good attorney or if she's smart, because she's been paying late fees for so long, he could come back and say, well, she's already overpaid you.
Yeah.
You need to take that and apply it to what she owes you.
yeah.
That could happen. So we're actually in a lawsuit, or not a lawsuit, we're in an eviction over there. And that's how we found out from this attorney. That we only have one property in North Carolina, so it's a learning experience.
Gotcha. Now you know.
Yeah. Oh well.
Let's see, next one here. With what kind of offer can we usually pay full price for a home? The answer there is essentially creative offer. Any kind of creative offer. Right? Any kind of terms offer.
Okay. It's like the seller finance stuff too.
Seller finance up too, exactly, yep.
So when you're looking at that, we either look at terms or we look at cash. Okay?
What do you like?
And if I can do cash, then I need a lower price. If you're gonna give me terms, I can pay you a higher price. That's how you have to
Gotcha.
think about it.
Do you know the LTV for a cash purchase? For an investor cash purchase?
80,
75, maybe 80. Because that's what banks lend.
Do you know why? Well, there's more to it than that.
85?
So on, yeah, if you want,
20% down payments. I mean, it's attractive.
right. So we want to be at 75, because I'm using private money,
Gotcha.
and for me to get that private money back out on a rate and term, it's usually 75%, sometimes 80. But if the acquisitions deal with it at 75, now I'm safe at getting my private money back out if I have to refinance them.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's why we use 75, not 80 typically.
But is standard pretty much 80?
It's
It is.
75.
Okay.
Standard is 80. Yeah, banks want to see 80%
Gotcha.
loan to value.
Gotcha.
I like to see it 75 because I can get it out of it.
Most ones I've been seeing have been 75%.
What's that?
Most ones I've been seeing are all like 75%.
Not traditional banks.
Not traditional.
No, not your government backed. They're all 80.
Oh, I mean like all investor. For investors.
Yeah,
they're all
for investor
75%.
stuff, it's
Yeah,
75
Gotcha.
for DSCR.
Yeah.
And it depends on the DSCR rate. Like I'm dealing with one right now, Ridgewood, that I'm doing a loan on. That in fact I was just talking to Derek this morning. We're trying to get it at 80% loan to value because I want more money in my pocket and I pay the higher loan payment. But the DSCR rate doesn't work. So now we can fall somewhere in between. 75 does work. Can we get 77, 76, something like that? Puts a little money in my pocket. So he's working that out right now.
Gotcha.
And that deals off appraisals. So.
What are 3 examples of affixed personal property that convey with a home sale? We were looking for something like built-in microwave, you know.
So if you go back to your realtor contract,
fans, sheds.
microwave, stoves, dishwasher are the big ones.
I don't think I'm understanding the question. Can you?
So a fixed personal property, so property that's affixed in a home. So like
Personal property. Oh my, like in a fixture. Like
Yeah.
duh. Like no shit. I know
Ceiling
that. I thought you were
fans.
saying like something else. Yeah, I know what a fixture is. I know what a fixture
Yeah.
is. I know trade fixture. I know all that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I missed that question.
Ceiling fan, yeah, all that kind of shit.
Duh.
Yeah.
Built-in cabinets. All that shit.
I figure you know that one.
Yes. I'm like, dude, what are you asking?
What happens in case title is not clear on day of closing? Per our contract.
I'm assuming they get it. Have to pay a fee.
So per our contract, what it says is that if title is not clear, on day of closing, so it's usually for title's not clear, whatever. Then at that point, both parties are already agreed to extend until it is.
So there's
it
no
basically-
penalty either.
Correct. It just
No penalty,
extends-
it's just an extension.
Yep.
And usually it's a title issue of some
So
kind
that's
that
why
they're waiting for the lien to clear, they're waiting for a payoff, whatever. And that's not on us. It's typically not on the seller either. It's on the title company to get stuff. Like right now, the reason why we got up twice is because we got to get a payoff on a refi that I'm doing. Title can't do anything. It's not on me. It's not on anybody. It's the title needs something from the mortgage company, and it's holding up the closing.
Gotcha. Well, so say like the seller or something.
Alright,
picks it up.
let's use Finley for example, right? Let's see, Finley set up on paper, it's set up to close the day after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
Friday, it's always going to be a shit show, whether that people are working, people are going to get closed that week. So we knew that like, hey, this is the last business day of the month. If title's not clear, then it's probably going to roll over to that first week into December. Something.
If it's being held up by the seller,
So
Now
say
they're
the seller
breached.
fucks
then
Yeah.
you could, and if you could negotiate with an addendum that there could be penalties.
but there is going to be a penalty.
No, not
So
necessarily.
no, at that point though, they're in breach and
They're in breach.
Sure them and we might.
And would you, and if they were pending breach or whatever, like what did you not want to try to get? I guess squeeze a little more out in a sense. It sounds fucked up, but
We would, but then it just depends on why are they refusing to close? What's going on?
Gotcha.
What's the breach? Do we have to take legal action against them? What's going on?
gotcha. Okay, not worth the hassle in a sense.
Not usually.
Okay.
Usually it's a title
Usually
issue.
if somebody's refusing to close, you can't really go back and be like, hey, let's get it closed. We'll just pay you $10,000 less.
Yeah.
We'll get you more
Then
heat
they'll
of
just
that,
get
yeah.
this. Okay.
What do we use an affidavit of equitable interest for? So that is, we call it memo, kind of like this name, pretty similar. But basically it serves as a cloud on title. It protects our interest in the property.
So
we
nobody
basically-
else can.
Yeah, so it's a document, we record it, and it shows like, oh, AZ now had an interest, they had a contract with this property, so it serves as a lien, so if they go sell it to somebody else, then it flags as a lien, and
Shows
we
that's
get,
okay.
we get called up,
Got it.
yeah. So we get some interest. in
So
it.
what's the difference between that and marketable? Marketable title.
Marketable title just means that it's a free and clear insurable title,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that you can
Yeah.
insure around it, yeah. So this is an actual like document.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's a marketable title just means that it's free and clear. It's not a document. What's the benefit of using a servicing company, creative deals? Sound like you got that one, right?
Yeah.
You got that one, so yeah, that one.
Yeah. Cool. Did that help at all?
100%.
Cool.
Like, and I know that contract would be huge if I could read that.
Yeah.
And then I'm just pissed off about the fucking personal property.
Yeah, no. Yeah, print them out those contracts so we can go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that helped a
Well,
little
that's
bit.
huge. I mean, if you guys want to,
So
keep
we have
doing
the
that
other
shit.
quiz, so maybe Monday or something we'll put them through
Yes,
the other
yeah,
quiz
yeah.
that you have,
perfect.
just to help you out.
That helps.
And then I think we need to actually, this has a bunch of Dispo questions in it. I think we need to go back and forth because ACT and Dispo need to know each other's.
Yes.
Well,
Somewhat.
That's why I try to mix
Yeah.
some of these in. 'Cause
Yeah, I think that was good.